Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another amazing episode of the Oversharing Show, the best darn show on the internet. Very excited. Today's episode 78, which is cool because there are 78 cards in the tarot deck. So we're going to pull from two different decks today, and we're going to be continuing our discussion about the Tao Te Ching. But before we get into all that, we have a couple of quotes that Sharon and I are both going to read, the lovely Sharon, and then we'll get into it. So Sharon's been reading a book. Was it the Four Agreements, or is this from the Fifth Agreement?
It's Don Miguel Ruiz Jr., his son, and he's writing about the five something. Let me pull it up. Where did I have it? It's like the five agreements or something like that of something else, but it's not quite like the five agreements. Where did I have that?
As you do that, I'll go into the screen sharing.
Oh, 5 levels of attachment. The 5 levels of attachment, Toltec wisdom for the modern world. Sorry.
Okay, so this is from the 5 levels of attachment, Toltec wisdom for the modern world. And I think I've listened to this because a few years ago, I know I've listened to the Four Agreements and the Fifth Agreement. So I think I did listen to this one too. And today we're just going to read us from the book, and the title is Making Perfection for Imperfection. Should that be from?
Mistaking perfection
for... Oh, mistaking perfection for imperfection.
Oh, okay.
All right. When my father first tried to get me to understand that I am perfect, I found it impossible to accept. I tried to understand, but I couldn't. I was attached to my belief that perfection is something to be attained through hard work and dedication. And I still had a long way to go. How could I be perfect? I hadn't yet accomplished my goals. I wasn't what I wanted to be. I couldn't attract the girl I wanted. I didn't weigh what I thought I should weigh. On and on I went with my diatribe, managing to ascertain and then judge all of my imperfections. With this kind of perfection, whenever our story does not match our beliefs, we judge it as imperfect. Then we punish ourselves for not living up to our beliefs of how we think we should live. We eventually acquire a definition of perfection that has nothing to do with actual perfection, being free from all flaws or defects. That's pretty much where it ends up. So it says, most often we read, and then I think it goes into the second one. Here, I'll share that one now. I'll just say that, yeah, I do remember listening to this, so I totally did read it. You want to read this, or you want me to keep going?
I can read it if you want. I think it said most often we read this definition through the eyes of judgment from the point of view of someone outside who's trying to live up to the stories we've created about ourselves. If we do happen to achieve perfection momentarily from this point of view, we reward ourselves with conditional self-love. Then we use conditional self-love as our motivator to pursue this distorted idea of perfection in the future. It's a circuitous problem. I continued to struggle with this concept as I grew older. Still, my father persisted throughout the years with this message. He told me, Miguel, when you understand that you are perfectly just the way you are, you will see that everything is perfect just the way it is. It's not easy to just wake up one day and say you are perfect and actually believe it. It requires desire and commitment. First, you leave behind any false ideals of perfection. You release your attachment to what you believe it means to be the perfect you. In order to learn this lesson, I needed to stop judging myself for not meeting my own expectations and accept myself for who I am at this very moment. I began at the beginning, learning to love myself and giving gratitude every morning for being alive. Second, you view life through the eyes of an artist and accept that everything is a work in progress, a never-ending masterpiece. Every brushstroke is perfect simply because it exists. As the paint hits the canvas, it grows and develops into what it is, even if we don't always have an outline to keep us in the lines. Whether colorful Whether colorful scribbles or a detailed landscape, each element of the piece is fulfilling and complete, even as we continue to paint, changing and evolving with every stroke of life. As my father says, our life is a canvas and we are all Picassos. So that's part of what I've been reading. And there was another quote that I don't have the screenshot for, but I do have the quote. So I'm just going to read that and then I will paraphrase. So it says, if we accept ourselves for who we are at this very moment, we change because we want to grow and evolve with life. Love is no longer the condition for change. It is a starting point for change. This is the true meaning of unconditional love. And I would paraphrase it and say in a short way, I don't wish to change in order to love myself, but I wish to change because I love myself. And that's it's almost subtle, but it's actually huge. It's a huge difference. So.
Yeah, no, totally. Sorry, I was just interacting in the chat. So
I feel like you're very soft, Brandon. Can we get feedback from the live chat?
oh yeah, how you guys? Can you hear me? How am I doing? I gotta plug my computer and it's about to go dead. Boom. There we go, plugged in. Am I can we get a sound check? Out there?
Yes,
We'll give a
please. I
shout
feel
out to
like
the chat
Brandon's
while we do it.
very.
What's up, family fun guy?
Oh, yay. Hi, James.
James or Elise, perhaps. What's going on, guys? Cody, yes, how you doing?
You're quiet. Yeah, see, you're too low.
Too low. All right, let me see what I can do. Light speed too slow?
Mm,
Fault? Anyone? Let's see. Prepare ship for ludicrous speed. Is that any better?
no.
Maybe if I hold the mic. Maybe if I hold the mic. I've been obsessed with REM lately, by the way. Still, I don't know what it is. All their songs.
Oh, yeah, you need to hold the
How
mic.
about, is that any better?
Oh, yeah,
Much better?
absolutely.
Mucho mejor.
Yeah, it needs to be
How are you guys?
close.
What you guys
You don't
think?
have like a mic holder?
Yeah, I do, but it doesn't
Okay.
bring it
Well,
this
you don't have a mic holder for that purpose right there.
Yeah, this one just would work on the desk.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry,
Is that
y'all.
any better, guys? That I
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's much better.
All right, cool. Raise your volume. Better. All right, good. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's up all the way. Let me just see if there's something I could do in the technical side of it. But
It's just the kind of mic you have, I think. Cody always tells me, like, if you're close to the mic, you'll hear the audio better. If you're far away, it's not going to grab it.
yeah, I have to
He's
do
an
that.
audiophile, though. So,
I have to do that like 2-3 times a week when I'm talking to people that are about to give a speech at a wedding. So I'm very familiar with how microphones work. But no, I know that's I
could
had
this
another
be your
mic in
mirror,
here, but
Brandon? Could this be the
seemed to
mirror?
be oh yeah, no, I'm not even I'm
I'm
just
kidding.
laughing at it at this point. But I don't it's funny because the other mic that I had was working really well. Then one day it just stopped working. Let me try something.
Your
Can you hear
gain
me
might be
now?
too low. You probably know that.
Is that any better? Can you hear
Uh,
me?
I mean, yeah, it's good. But like
All
I
right.
said, if
Well,
it's closer to your mouth, that's when we can hear you.
yeah, I know, I understand. But last week I had it where it was and it seemed to be okay. I don't know.
Well, I thought it was low, but I wasn't going to complain too much. So,
Oh, I did fix the audio
oh
too.
my
Maybe
gosh, dude, now you're way loud. Yeah.
now I'm too loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it must have something to do with the wiring. Then hang on, let me
Yeah,
just.
your wiring was bad.
How's that? Is that good?
Yeah.
That's fine. How's the? Hey, everybody! Welcome to the Oversharing audio check. I think I probably plugged in something more than it was or something, so now it sounds perfect. Okay, good.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I was
this
going crazy.
I have here I think is low. Or low is old, but it's sure, so it's like a good brand. Anywho, yeah, I know. I really getting back to the what we were talking about with the 5 agreements and all that stuff. I really love
The 5 attachments,
5 attachments.
levels of attachment, I should say.
Oh yeah, 5 levels of attachment. It's all coming back to me now. But this idea of the perfection thing, I always remembered that. It's funny because Spoon says perfect. She's like, it's perfect. It's been perfect the whole time, guys. If you can't do
It's
it,
always
you can't deal with me being high. No. Thank you guys so much, though. Mr. Nargis, thank you, everyone, for your are you sure?
Are you?
Thank you, everybody, for your feedback. We really appreciate it.
I'm not sure. I'm road.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, it's better than Sennheiser Busch. Like Budweiser. Sennheiser is another microphone.
You're getting low again.
Getting low. What's going on? Is that better?
I mean,
I have earbuds. I can hear it all. Still low, Brandon. All right. That's weird that did that.
it's one of your cables or something. It's
Maybe.
kind of
Let me just check something in Zoom. Maybe it has something to do with Zoom. That's what I was gonna do, but then I got this. But anyway, speaking of the of what we were talking about in the show, yeah, I think that whole idea of perfection is kind of mind blowing because it's so true what he's saying about, we have this idea of perfection that we get when we're children. And this is something we talk about in the show all the time, how people are kind of indoctrinated into society, if you will, or just the society and the cultural norms that we learn. And it's like, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to go to school, you got to get a job, you got to buy a house, you got to, all these things. You got to dress a certain way, you got to talk a certain way, whatever it is. There's all these different things. And I've been telling people this for years, and I must have got it out of this book now that I remember, but it's like, when we talk about exterior,
validation or
external validation, right? All the time, like you get this external validation. And then when you get the external validation from people, you allow yourself to feel good. Only after that, you give yourself like a dollop of, feeling good. And then when it goes away, right? If you do something that people see as bad or not right, and then you feel bad and you shame yourself and you torture yourself. Well, a lot of people are stuck in that. And what they don't realize is that feeling of goodness that you feel is something that you could feel whenever you want, no matter what. You could train yourself or, figure out a way to do that. Now, I'm not saying that's the perfect way to go, because that could also be kind of new agey, because that's what in the new age, that's one of the pitfalls that people could get stuck in, right? Is that, oh yeah, everything's perfect, I'm going to feel great, I don't need any outside validation, but yet you're sitting home all day, or you're meditating, or you join a cult or something like that. You're like shaving your head and drinking the Kool-Aid, but you still feel great about it, right? So that's the danger of all this stuff. And that's why we talk about self-knowledge and getting to know yourself, and not really adhering to what somebody else says. It's kind of like Sharon just sent me that meme, which was great. And it was a mountain, and it was basically saying how there's like hundreds of what's that? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it getting lower again?
It's like the meme I sent you. You were gonna say, but go ahead.
Yeah, like the meme that you sent, which is basically saying there's like hundreds of pathways up the mountain, and all of them are perfect. And the people who are having an issue are the ones that are running around the mountain telling everybody else the way they have to go.
That they're wrong.
Right? But which, again, that doesn't mean that that's a wrong path either, because sometimes people have to do that and they have to run around the mountain and tell everyone they're wrong until they figure it out, right? So again, no judgments.
Spoons, thanks to Spoons, I made that connection this morning.
Yeah. I'm gonna try something really quick just to see. Original sound, live performance. Let me see. How does this sound? Is this any better?
No different.
No different. Okay.
I think it's your cable. I think the way it was moving around or something. Didn't you say you thought that's what it was?
It could. Yeah, it could have been. Because
there was a point where you just like your sound went like 10 times louder.
Let me try something. Maybe if I back it up a little, because sometimes old dials.
Oh, yes.
Is that any better?
Yes. Well, it did get better for a second.
No,
keep moving it.
I'm moving it.
It sounded like it kind of crackled and stuff when you.
Oh, you know what? I think I bet this dial is off. So when it's like on the top, sometimes it.
Yeah.
That?
See,
is that good?
No, just keep moving.
How's that? Is that any better?
Yeah, play with the knob like Cody
moving,
said.
Don't stop. Yeah. How's that?
Oh, yeah, it's getting better. It's getting closer to where you need to be.
If I go any more higher, though, I'll be right at the end, I think.
Yeah.
Good.
That's where. Yes.
This is good right now?
Yes.
Okay. I'll try not to touch it.
Dude, okay, but now you can move the mic a little back to your holster or whatever.
Back to the holster. Put that mic away. This isn't that kind of party. All right, how about that? Is that better?
Oh my gosh, fine a freaking Lee. I felt like I had to just strain to freaking hear you.
Oh, I wouldn't want to do that to anybody. I wouldn't want to deprive anybody of my beautiful golden voice. I'm sorry, everybody out there. I didn't mean to deprive you of your weekly dose of my lovely golden voice. All right, good. Now that we're working there. Okay, well, we figured it out. But yeah, no,
Tony said it's a dirty pot. I guess a potentiometer.
Well, I have what I have is like it's just a little USB. I don't want to touch it now, but it's like this big and round, and you just plug one end into the USB and one end into the mic cable, and it's got 3 knobs on it. I bet the knobs are just probably shot.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, I think it's funny that we're talking about this, but then also like doing the audio stuff, because it's really going to try some people's patience. But it's cool though. You know, I was thinking about this. Hey, what's up, Quiet Sparky Bears in the house? I was thinking
lots of
about
people
this
just came on.
We actually do our listeners a great service because we don't go live. And again, I'm not disparaging anybody, right? But we don't go live and then play like music for an hour, you know, for people to come in the chat. We're just here, man. What you see is what you get. We're not like waiting for people. It's like, no, you be here.
And if you're here perfectly on time whenever you get here.
Exactly. So a little bit of messing with the audio, but now at least we know what it is. So that's good.
Yeah. Welcome newcomers, Mr. Nargis, Quiet Sparky. Who else just came in? David Zimmerly.
What's up, David Zimmerly? Awesome.
Yeah.
But and Joe's here. Yeah.
Maybe thanks. Yes, Joe too.
I just saw what's up, Joe, all the way in Germany. I was just looking at the pictures of us.
Deutschland.
The other day. Deutschland.
Yeah.
As good. Fun. I learned how to say pancakes.
Pfannkuchen.
Pfannkuchen. It's like fun cooking. You just have to say.
It's like fun cooking. Exactly.
More like fun eating, right? Am I right? But yeah, no, I think this concept is kind of mind-blowing, and a lot of people might not exactly grasp it, but I know in my own life I totally did grasp it, and that's when I started to live kind of more in accordance with my intuition, and I didn't feel like I always had to do things to please people, or I always had to like go out and be out and do things. I realized that, hey, oh wait, maybe I am an introvert. You know, sometimes I do need
to be off the internet for like 5 days straight.
Yeah, that happens too.
And not answer my messages. Okay. Yeah. Just kidding.
Well, you have my text, so I know if it's.
I know, I'm kidding.
Yeah. But yeah, no, but even in real world affairs, like I would go out and hang out with friends a lot more, go do things. But then I realized I'm like, oh, you know, now I know I could just kind of chill out and relax and study the internet, you know, and go down rabbit holes. But I've been so I think that's a really cool concept for people to understand, and it does kind of take some time to get over. For me, I think it was part of like my dark night of the soul process kind of thing, but this book definitely did help me. So I recommend all of these books: the 4 Agreements, the 5th Agreement, and the 5 Levels of Attachment.
Oh, I didn't know there was a 5th agreement. Okay.
Yeah, because I think the father wrote the 4 Agreements and then the son wrote the 5th Agreement. He like added one. I don't even remember what all they are now, but I do remember that one of the most important one was never take anything personally. And we probably talked about this a lot on our early shows, right?
Yeah, we did.
Where you got to remember that when people are talking to you, they're not talking to you as you know yourself. Only you know you the way you do. Everybody else just has an idea of who you are in their head. And again, this isn't judgment. This is just kind of how we work, and especially how we default unless you're conscious of it. And then when you become conscious of this, not only does this help you to not take things personally when you realize that somebody's just speaking to like a movie character in their head that they think is you, you know, because the analogy that he used is basically, say, if you have a friend, like we'll say, you know, your mom, right? Say if you can get inside your mom's head and you could sit down like you're in a movie theater watching the screen, and on the screen is life as she sees it, and you get to sit next to her, you would see that you're just a character in her movie. So she has all these different assumptions and all these things about you. And if you realize that, then you realize she's not actually talking to you. She's talking to herself, basically, right? She's having a conversation with herself in front of you. And this is another concept we used to talk about all the time. We should bring this up. I was talking to with my lovely lady Elizabeth last night about this whole thing, right?
The Lady Elizabeth. I like that.
Elizabeth, I'm like, yeah, I understand that when you're talking to somebody, they don't really talk to you. It's 2:22. But yet they're really just talking
11:22.
to themselves or having conversations with themselves in front of you. And that is what helped me anyway, to not take things personally. And the other side of that, which was what I was going to say earlier, is that you can also now have compassion for people because you realize that, that's what's going on. They just have this idea of you in their head for whatever reason, maybe because of the trauma that they went through. They make all these assumptions about you. And based on all those assumptions, that's how they're directing you. What's up, Zeralath? So yeah, that's I think very important stuff. That's something that helped me early on. And it's not like this is something I grasped right away. It took me, I mean, I still work on it. It's still like somebody will say something and I'll be like, oh, all right. And then I got to grin my teeth and bear it and then be like, oh yeah. QSB says I talk to myself with people all the time. Yeah, exactly.
Dancing with Myself. What's that song?
With myself. Yeah, Billy Idol.
We were going to pull a tarot card today because, well, we just happened to decide that that's what we were going to do. And it happened that it's the 78th episode. Well, it's not the 78th episode. It's episode number 78. And you still there, B?
You're breaking.
You're frozen. Oh, yeah. There you are. Okay. Your internet connection, maybe.
Yeah, it's unstable, like me.
So yeah, we're gonna pull a tarot card from the Golden Dawn tarot, and I'm still gonna pull an I Ching card because this is the Tao, and I have to pull an I Ching card. Dude, what did you pull? The Tower card. Nice.
All right, I'm gonna pin myself here. Okay, so this is the Golden Dawn deck. So the Golden Dawn is the institution that basically, Edward Waite and all those people and Aleister Crowley all kind of come out of or had dealings with. Apparently Aleister Crowley like took them over or whatever, but this, so it's some of the stuff you're going to see is going to be kind of like the Rider Waite. It's in that style. I wouldn't say exactly like the Thoth deck because that deck is more like Egyptian. But I love this because it's all the kind of the same, symbolism. You get this arrow coming out of the sun, which is like nature, and it's smashing the top of this tower where you have a golden crown that's coming off and then two people falling.
Joe says, isn't that the appropriate card this week?
Yeah, well, I mean, apparently a lot of planets are in retrograde or whatever this week. And it's funny because I can see it. Like I did a gig this Tuesday, which I usually don't do DJ gigs on Tuesday, but it was a corporate event for I don't want to say exactly, but it's like
just fine.
It's either a university or hospital that rhymes with bail or male. It might begin with a Y, like so where all the elites are, but it was like it was an office party for one of their office staffs. I don't know if it was the hospital or the university, but it was during the day and people did seem pretty subdued. Like nobody was dancing or nothing. I was kind of just playing background music. Everyone was just like really chill.
Very interesting.
Yeah. It kind of seems like everybody would just, I don't know, like they didn't know how to act. Also, there was no alcohol at this event. So maybe that had something.
Yeah, I think that contributes.
But
so
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. Talk about your tarot card.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So the tower. Yeah. I think this maybe because it's a time of all these planets or luminaries in retrograde. But the tower is really kind of like one of these areas where you think you're doing really well. It reminds me of the ego, right? Like even say we'll like use the analogy of the spiritual ego, like we like to talk about all the time. Sometimes when we wake up or people wake up to this stuff, they feel like they know it at all and they want to become a master and they want to tell everybody what to do with their life. And they're like, no, this is how you have to do it. And they get this ego and they think they know and they don't want any help or they don't want to change themselves. And then they keep going so well and say, hey, maybe they even start like a foundation, or maybe they start like a practice where they're like a guru and they're helping people. But then it gets to a point where it all just shatters and it falls down. And that's really what I think the tower is. Now, it doesn't mean it's a physical thing that shatters. Maybe that person that became a spiritual teacher or healer, even, they get to a point where they're like, oh, fuck, I'm full of shit. Like they could just see something that happens, or they have a shift in the way they see the world, right? And then this tower comes crumbling down, and then they just don't want to be any part of it, and they go on to do maybe something else in the area. But it's that same kind of energy.
Yeah, very nice.
And it's funny that we're talking about the Tao, because I feel like the Tao is one of these things where people might have an idea what they think it is, and then later on it could mean different stuff. I know that's how it kind of was for me with looking into the Tao. Like, first you're like, oh yeah, this is like those who know don't talk, those who talk don't know. All these people out there who are talking have no idea, and you're pointing your finger, when it's like, yeah, but maybe they mean you. If you talk, you don't know. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you should slow down, right?
Have you looked in the mirror lately?
Yeah, and shout out to Elizabeth's mom. Her mom and stepdad have been visiting, and we had a conversation yesterday at dinner. It was just me, Elizabeth, and her mom, and I was like finally skirting the lines on things as far as like conspiracy, but I didn't want to get in too deep. But she was open, and she's really nice, and she wasn't like saying you're crazy or whatever. But I was talking about the Kennedy assassination a little bit, but the whole time I was thinking to myself, because she also was like, because she was just talking about what a powerful time it was to be alive, like in the 60s and 70s. She's like, we put a man on the moon, JFK. And I was just like, I didn't say anything, because technically they put
If
a man
you
on the moon.
believe
Yeah.
they put a man on the moon.
Man on the moon. But I really don't, it's not even like I judge people for thinking the moon landing was real, because honestly, it's like, it was on all the TVs. And if you were a kid at the time, there's no way that you didn't believe it. I mean, maybe there's a few people that didn't believe it, but unless you get into like all these conspiracy things and stuff, right? And look into it. But a lot of people, they're just living their life and they're happy and they're going along, and it doesn't dawn on them. But I did bring up the fact that it was like,
Golden dawn on them. Just kidding.
yeah, the Golden Dawn. I did bring up the fact that it was like a trauma bonding ritual, because I was like, well, mine was the Challenger. I'm like, we saw the Challenger space shuttle. They wheeled in this TV I didn't even know they had. And then we watched this shuttle go up with the teacher in it, and then it just exploded. And then they were just like, oh, I don't know. Well, here's your math homework, like. In 9/11, same thing. People I talk about that are younger, I think even Joe was one of them, who he said they wheeled in a TV and you got to see these towers burning. And I was talking about that last night with Elizabeth, and I'm like, even if they didn't fall yet or get hit, it's like, why would you show buildings being hit by a plane and on fire to children in school? You know what I mean? Like, what's your motive?
Terrible.
That,
Yeah.
like, so. Like,
Violence.
and it would be what, for a trauma bonding ritual, I would imagine. And it's not like the people in the school knew what was going on. They probably were just like, oh yeah, this seems right. Like they're just following orders or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm just doing my job.
I'm just doing my job.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, we have
A card
like,
that I'm going to pull, right?
yeah,
First.
Ching. Yes, please do that.
Okay. I have pulled card number 52, Keeping Still. Mountain above, mountain below. Let's see if how does that look? See it?
Oh yeah. Well, I like that. Here, let me pin you now. I have to remove my pin. Remove my pin and place the pin on the lovely Sharon. Boom. There you go. Now everybody can see it. Oh, that's like, reminds me like waves. It's really cool. Like the up and the down and the up and the down. That's really quite interesting, shall we say?
Yeah, mountain above and mountains below. I'll just read that little section because that's always find it to be so perfect every time. Because everything is,
That's what I heard.
Right. So I'll just read the intro again. Again, it's card number 52, keeping still. Regular periods of rest are an important aspect of personal development and evolution. The most relaxed person may not be the one who sleeps 12 hours a day, but the one who knows how to grab a nap while cruising at 600 miles per hour at 35,000 feet. Learning to act when it is time to act and to be still when it is wise to be still is the key to obtaining the peace of mind that helps you stay alert when clear focus is needed. Consider the spine, which serves as a switchboard for all the nerves of the body that mediate movement. When the spine is kept flexible and healthy through proper rest and relaxation, active movement can be undertaken without strain. When the spine is held erect in a balanced sitting posture, the inner balancing of meditation can take place. Treat your vitality as if it were a candle in the wind. Protect it as though it were the only light in a dark forest on a moonless night. Avoid external conditions that threaten to snuff out this precious flame, and be careful not to suffocate it with your ambitions or worries. Call time out, relax, take your shoes off and sit a spell. Let go of thinking, meditate on just being. That's funny because I was just telling Spoons that in her chat group about just being.
That's amazing. I'll put it back. Whoops. All right.
Sweet.
I just realized did you send me another copy of the Dow? Because we only have up till 9.
No. I sent you one that's up to 14.
Get it right now. When did you send that in Telegram?
Yeah, a while back. Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, if you want to. I thought I had downloaded that on here, but for some reason it's not on here.
Okay. Let me.
Yeah, you can share it this time, Sharon. Your name is Sharon. I love that. I love that from the I Ching. I mean, it's crazy how much wisdom or knowledge is out there for people who are done being distracted by Hollywood and and all these other things.
Yeah. All right.
Or even by other religions, right? It's crazy. So many distractions out there.
All right. Can y'all see my screen?
Yeah. Can you get rid of that sidebar?
Pardon me?
The sidebar, is there a way to?
Oh, what do I need to do that?
I think it's one of the
one of the options.
Yeah. If not, it's not a big deal. I'm gonna check the chat, see how everyone's doing while I do that. Let's see. My school had lots of parents actually working there, and when they wheeled in the TVs, my school had lots of parents actually working there when they wheeled the TVs in. No kidding. Yeah, it's crazy, right? They don't even think about it. Like, oh, you just got to see this, but that's what everybody did. Like my mom, in the morning of that 11th day in the 9th month in the year, the 2001st year of the Gregorian calendar. I remember I was off that day. I was 25 at the time, and I was working in the car business, and I was off. It was a Tuesday. My mom called me to wake me up, and I woke up just in enough time to turn on the TV and see the second plane hit the tower. So it was crazy, though. But I don't know.
That is weird. All right, let me see if this works. Does that work?
Oh, I still see that's all right. I think it's maybe if you put it full screen, because you could see some of your I'm trying to remember what I did. Let me see, because I pulled it up. There's okay, so see the 3 dots, the red, yellow, and green. Right to the right of that, there's like a sidebar thing you could hover over, and it'll give you the you could put hide sidebar on the actual document.
Oh, you want me to hide that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, hold on.
There you go. Aha.
Like that?
Yep. And now you can make it bigger. You can push one of those plus buttons. There you go.
Is that decent enough size?
Yeah, that's good. maybe a little more because I think it'll fit. Try one more. Well, thank you everybody for bearing with us. And I'll say, if you want more of the Oversharing Show, go to morelawsmoreproblems.com, click on the Oversharing tab, and you could find us in audio podcast form, or you could donate to us, or you could email us, or whatever you want. Comments, complaints, suggestions, questions that you have that you'd like for us to cover. Or you can just comment in this video below. Please do make sure you hit thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live or when we're planning on doing it or premiering. So there we go. Verse 9.
Perfect. All right. Well, you read Stephen Mitchell, don't you?
Yeah. All right. Fill your bowl. Okay. Stephen Mitchell from the 1988 version of the Tao Te Ching interpretation. Fill your bowl to the brim and it will spill. Keep sharpening your knife and it will blunt. Chase after money and security, and your heart will never unclench. Care about people's approval, and you will be their prisoner. Do your work and then step back. The only path to serenity.
Nice. Dwight Goddard, 1919 version. He entitled this Moderation. Continuing to fill a pail after it is full, the water will be wasted. Continuing to grind an axe after it is sharp will soon wear it away. Who can protect a public hall crowded with gold and jewels? The pride of wealth and position brings about their own misfortune. To win true merit, to preserve just fame, the personality must be retiring. This is the heavenly Tao.
That's right.
Hmm.
Great analogies, though.
Yeah. Version.
So the Stan Rosenthal version from 1984 is titled "Without Extremes." The cup is easier to hold when not filled to overflowing. Ooh, that's interesting. The blade is more effective if not tempered beyond its metal. Gold and jade are easier to protect if possessed in moderation. He who seeks titles invites his own downfall. The sage works quietly, seeking neither praise nor fame, completing what he does with natural ease and then retiring. This is the way in nature of Tao.
And Aleister Crowley's version, he entitles The Way of Reticence. Fill not a vessel, lest it spill in caring. Meddle not with a sharpened point by feeling it constantly, or it will soon become blunted. Gold and jade endanger the house of their possessor. Wealth and honors lead to arrogance and envy and bring ruin. Is thy way famous and thy name becoming distinguished? Withdraw thy work once done into obscurity. This is the way of heaven.
Ooh, I like how they both say gold and jade in both these versions.
Yeah. Gold and jade. I noticed also the word fame here and fame here.
Fame.
I'm going to live forever.
All right, so let's tackle this one part at a time with the Stephen Mitchell from 1988 first. Fill your bowl to the brim and it will spill. Keep sharpening your knife and it will blunt. I love that because it's kind of reminds me of like OCD or worrying about things, or even something like meditation, right? So you can use meditation as a tool. This is kind of the way I look at it to heal certain aspects of yourself, or however you want to frame that, make yourself, we'll just say raise your vibration, right? You can meditate to raise your vibration, but then at a certain point, at least for me, it became where I didn't need to meditate every day because it was kind of getting in the way of what I wanted to do once I got to a certain point. So it's just like that, right? Like if you keep filling your bowl, no matter how amazing this water is, this life-giving water, eventually it's just going to spill over. And if you keep sharpening your knife, you're going to make it useless. And
it's
then
like overdoing something.
Yeah. It's like worrying, right? It's like constantly worrying at something.
Yeah. And more to that, it's like, you don't have to do the same exact thing every single day. Like we've talked about how when I used to do a lot of vitamins and supplements, I would be like trying to take all these pills every day or at every meal or whatever. And it was just like, it honestly didn't do anything for me. Like whether I was taking them or not, it was the same. So then it was like, well, do I really need to be doing this? But like, yeah, even if something is useful to you, it may not always be useful to you. You know, you'll get to a point where you probably won't need it every day. You won't need to do it every day. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more. Chase after money and security, and your heart will never unclench. Care about people's approval, and you will be their prisoner, which goes right to the beginning of this show. Right before we were right in the middle of our sound check, we were also talking about other people's approval and getting external validation and stuff, right? And right here, it's like you will be their prisoner, which can't really mince words about that. And I like the whole thing about money and security, because a lot of people view money as security, and this, I think, this realm isn't a place to be safe. We're not going to be safe while we're here. I mean, we could be safe, right? But I think it's not about being safe. It's more about being free and following, I guess,
and having no fear.
Yeah, and having no fear. Exactly. So if you don't have fear, then you're not worried about money and security. But it could also be something from a materialistic point of view, where you're chasing after this money because you think it's the goal. And when you are, it says right here, your heart will never unclench. So you'll never be able to actually feel the love, because you're so worried about security and material things. You won't be able to kind of see the next level, right?
And if I think about it too, like money and security, or like I think of hoarding too, like hoarding food or hoarding, like no offense to anybody that is a prepper, but like, you know, if you're worried and you're like, you have all these things, like, what if something happens? Well, you might bring that upon yourself. You know, maybe, just saying. But I have a funny, just quick story. I was out of town and my sister's fridge broke down. And she texts me and says, "Hey, can I borrow your fridge? Can I, use space in your fridge while you're out?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. No worries." She has a key to my house. I was like, "Yeah, take whatever use the space you need, whatever, and take stuff out that, doesn't need to be there if you need to."
No
whatever.
wild parties. No.
So, when she picked me up from the airport, I was like, "Hey, I'm hungry. Can we stop somewhere?" So we stopped to grab some tacos at a local place nearby. And she was like telling me about, I was like, "So what happened with your fridge and blah, blah, blah." She's telling me. And she's like, if you need help, like cleaning up and getting rid of stuff in your fridge, I can help you, or something like that. Like, she's like, "You have a lot of food." And like implying like you're only one person. Like, why do you have so much food in your fridge? And I'm like, do I really have? And and then I guess the way I replied to her, she was like, "Oh no, I didn't mean to offend you. I wasn't trying to say, and I was like, no, it's okay." But I had to really think like, wow, maybe I am like hoarding food or something.
I mean,
I tend
honestly,
to.
that's one of those things that, I mean, it's not always a bad idea to have extra food and stuff on hand, right? But it's something that I think people, if taken to the extreme, they could go a little crazy with it, right? But you never know.
For sure. Yeah.
I would say that having the food or the prepping materials and all that stuff isn't really the problem. If, whatever the issue would be worrying that you need all that stuff,
the intention, the worry, right?
Exactly. Because I mean, maybe you're just called to get all that stuff, and maybe something's going to happen. You're going to be able to feed your neighbors. I don't want us to be like,
Yeah.
prepper plans. It's my favorite rap group from the 80s is Salt and Prepper. Instead of push it, it's like store it. Store it good. All right, we're done.
I don't even know that song, but that's
The
hilarious.
song push it
Yeah.
real good. You don't know?
Maybe it sounds familiar. Like,
well,
yeah.
I don't want to ruin our show because I would play it. Down. How dare you play Salt and Prepper?
All right. So did you have any more commentary? Sorry, I might have cut you off at some point.
No, I think I'm good there. Did I read do your work, then step back, the only path to serenity? I think that reminds me of
No, we haven't done that one, but
okay.
we can if you want to just do it all this time.
Yeah. I would say that the part where it's like do your work, then step back, the only path to serenity. I feel like that is reminiscent of some of the earlier chapters or some of the earlier verses that we read in the Tao when it's like, just do your work and don't be worried about the outcome of it, right? Just focus on the work and then let it go. It's kind of, they're repeating it. So I think it really, they're trying to show you. It's kind of like when a teacher says, if you have a teacher or a professor that's like, if I repeat myself, make sure that's the important stuff. Or like when I underline it on the board, that's what you need to know. It's like that. That's that whole feeling that they're giving here where it's, do your work, then step back, the only path to serenity.
Yep. All right. Well, Dwight Goddard says moderation. Continuing to fill a pail after it's full, the water will be wasted. Continuing to grind an axe after it's sharp will soon wear it away. So all that, just kind of to go back to what we were talking about, it makes me think like continuing to fill a pail after it's full, the water will be wasted. I just think, here back in 2020, I was doing a lot of that, like, oh no, because people were like, oh, buy all this food, buy all this stuff. So I ended up buying stuff. Well, some of it ended up sitting and like now it's expired. You know what I mean? It's like, it's going to get wasted because you're not going to use it in time. It's wasteful. I mean, some stuff really isn't expired because if it's like dried food or whatever, it's like, quinoa or whatever, it's not going to go bad, but
Honey.
Or honey. Yeah. But yeah. So it made me think of that. Who can protect a public hall crowded with gold and jewels? That's funny. The pride of wealth and position brings about their own misfortune. Yeah. I mean, what can you say about that? It's like, if you have this room filled with gold and jewels, like, how do you protect that?
And
like
especially if it's a public hall, right?
Yeah. Like people can come in and they might just take the jewels and the gold. What can you do? Yeah. So like, and the pride of wealth and position brings about their own misfortune. Yeah. I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. It really is. This really does all have to do with like hoarding, it seems. It's like either hoarding preparedness or physical things or money.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, right? That's why moderation. And my favorite thing I've ever heard about moderation was everything in moderation, even moderation.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes you could go a little overboard. It's fine, but it's more about finding that balance.
Yeah. Absolutely. To win true merit, to preserve just fame, that I don't quite understand, but I'll keep reading.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I think what they mean by just fame, it's like a correct kind of fame, right? Not like just fame.
Just as in.
Yeah, it's the English languages. So, because you're like, wait, you're just preserving fame? No,
yeah. I'm like, what do you mean by that?
A just
to preserve fame. A just. You know what? The article A could have been placed right.
That's
in
right.
front of it, and that would have probably helped.
How dare you, Dwight Goddard?
Yeah, to preserve a just fame. Like just is like rightful, and like, what's another synonym for that?
Justice. It's kind of short for justice,
yeah.
Right? So it's in that vein, correct, or maybe even balanced.
Like to me, I think of a balance. I think of Libra, and I think of the justice card in the tarot.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what are you being famous for, right? Are you famous because you're a bank robber? Like, are you the infamous Three Amigos, right? Or are you famous because you saved a lady who's about to get hit by a bus or whatever? You jumped in the way or whatever it is.
Yeah. To win true merit, to preserve a just fame, the personality must be retiring, Yeah, so like your own personality that I guess gets in the way of this,
Yeah,
perhaps.
like the ego, when people talk about
Yeah.
the ego, or I would just say your own designs, like the designs or
Your
personal
egoic
projects.
design.
So yeah, right. So it's like if that must retire to preserve
Mm,
true merit or true fame or to win.
yeah,
Yeah.
good call. This is the heavenly Tao. That's cool.
Yeah, because if you think about it, you can even come back to us for a minute if you want. If you think about it, people like Jesus or the Buddha or Muhammad, peace be upon him, or I'm reading that or listening to that Wheel of Time series, and
Hmm.
I don't want to give too much away, but at one point there are these people that come from like across the sea, and they're just this giant empire, and they talk about their empress all the time. There's an empress, and every time they say the empress, they're like, may she live
Peace
forever.
be upon her.
Well, they're like, the empress, may she live forever. But even when they're thinking to themselves, like their inner dialogue, these people, they're called the Shan Chan.
They
When they're
say it
like,
too.
when they're thinking like, I know the empress, may she live forever. Yeah, it's so funny. They're like, they're just trying to show that it's indoctrinated. But
That's
people like
so
that
funny.
are famous because they were just, like, they have just fame. They were probably following, you can even just think of the path of Christ. He was following his dharma, because you could see there were times where he didn't want to do what he had to do, but he did it because he realized it was his path, right? Or the right thing to do. So that's why he did these things. So I think that would be a good example for this verse,
Mm, thank
you know.
you. All right.
Just cool.
All right, Brandon Stan Rosenthal.
Dan Rosenthal, 1984, without extremes. The cup is easier to hold when not filled to overflowing. The blade is more effective if not tempered beyond its metal. Gold and jade are easier to protect if possessed in moderation. He who seeks titles invites his own downfall. Now, we always talk about how this is the air or the intellectual rendering of the Tao that we are studying compared in comparison to the other ones. So it's just like straightforward. It's like, hey, the cup's easier to hold when not filled to overflowing, right? Like, you ever fill a cup all the way to the top, like
It's
a
very
bar,
logical.
right? They call it a bar pour. If you go to a bar, they pour it right to the top because they know you're just going to drink it right at the bar. Um, and they talk again about the blade being more effective if not tempered beyond its metal. So if it's not overworked, it works better, right? That's what it means by tempered beyond its metal. I guess the metal is like the limit that it can withstand. And here, this is where the gold and jade come in. Um, and it's the same thing. They're easier to protect if possessed in moderation. You don't have to lose your mind and worry about all these riches. And that it's not to say that if you are rich, there's nothing wrong with it. Cause a lot of like evangelical Christians or all these people will tell you it's easier for an eye to pass through,
It's easier for
for a camel to pass through the eye of a
eye
needle,
of a needle.
for a rich man to get into heaven. And that's not, in nowhere are they saying that you can't be rich, right? They're just telling you that it's easier because, in my interpretation, because most people who are rich, what they're saying is it's hard for them to get into the kingdom of heaven. And when we talk about kingdom of heaven, we're not talking about a place that you go up in the sky after you die. We're talking about right here and now, and getting awake to all this stuff. So it's harder if you're rich, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible. That's just part of your dharma. Like, if you have a lot of money, then now you're the caretaker of this money. I think Ram Dass talked about something like this when he was talking. He said when he was talking to somebody who was wealthy, he's like, the guy said, he's like, I just see myself now as like a caretaker of all this money, right? It's not
Mm,
exactly mine, which is true, because anything that's impermanent in this realm isn't really yours. You're going to leave it all when you go back to the next cycle, the energy or whatever the heck happens to you. So I like that, because it's not saying that you shouldn't possess a lot of gold and jade and all this stuff. It's just saying that it's easier to protect if possessed in moderation, which would mean that somebody that's rich that's doing this just has a harder path to work to walk, but that's good for them. Maybe that's what they need to walk, right? So
Yeah,
And I also
sorry.
like the part about titles. No, that's cool. About titles being downfall. Because if you think of like noblemen and like kings and queens, and they want to be addressed and treated a certain way, and then they have servants or people who are owned or whatever that are treated like crap. But it's like, well, what's the difference? We're all people, right? Right? Why are you set above anybody else in that physical way? So
Yes, absolutely. Let me bring it back. Sorry.
no, that's good.
I
Great.
did it a weird way. I clicked on the wrong thing, so it showed all my screen and everything.
No worries.
All right. Did you want to read? We might as well because we're doing it now. So go ahead and read
Yeah,
that.
that's how we've kind of been doing it, right? Oh yeah, that's right. You would go and read like the first part and go by. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a hot minute. The sage, we could do that with 10. The sage works quietly, seeking neither praise nor fame, completing what he does with natural ease and then retiring. This is the way and nature of Tao. And I mean, it basically goes back to what we've been talking about, what was in that other verse that lines up with this stuff. It's kind of like just do your work, and you're not doing it for praise or fame. You're just doing it because that's your job, right? That's your dharma. And stuff like this gets misinterpreted, like misinterpreted. There I go, making up a word again. It could be misinterpreted in certain ways, like in a caste system, for example, like in India, where they have a caste system. Some people are, they're just, it's just their job and duty to be the sweeper, right? And that's what they do. They sweep up, and they're happy, and they're happiest to be the best sweeper, and they have no ambitions to be anything but that. And I mean, I guess if they're happy and they're living there, it's like I can't judge them, right? But that might be a way where somebody who has a lot more ambition, like a king or an emperor or a ruler or some holy person, gets in there and is like, all right, well, it's my dharma to lead everybody and lead us to war and conquer all this stuff. It's your dharma to just do what I say, right? It's where it could get a little weird. So that's
That
why
reminds, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's why there really is no right, correct path. Everybody has to kind of figure out for themselves, because when you rely on another person to interpret it for you, especially somebody with ill intentions or a lot of ambition, you might end up finding yourself at the head of an army with a sword or a spear in your hand, right? Or a machine gun.
The stuff you were saying reminds me of the sorry, I might as well just go to here.
Back,
Reminds me of the first episode of Futurama, where he's gonna be told what to do, I guess, to be as his profession in life, and he's like, no. But the funny part is that he ends up being that anyway.
Yeah.
In a different way.
Fry in the year 1999 is a pizza delivery boy. He stumbles into this thing where he frees himself and he wakes up 1,000 years in the future, right? And then I love it because it's like, you got to do what you got to do. So he meets Leela, who works for, I guess, the government or whatever, and they assign everybody. They just read, they take a sample of them, and then they know what they're going to do, and they just assign what their tasks are, and it ends up being delivery boy. And he gets really mad. He runs away. He ends up talking Leela into running away, but they have this phrase. It's like, you got to do what you got to do, right? So they run away. They find his long lost great grandson, who's like an old man because it's the future, right? And then he finds out that the guy owns a delivery business, so he ends up being a delivery boy anyway. It's like, it's really funny because it's like this cosmic joke that happens when people try not to follow their dharma, right? They just in it anyway. But he's content in it because it's a spaceship, right?
That was the funny part.
He's like, I'm a delivery boy, and he's like excited. But that does mirror a lot of times, that mirrors people's paths in life, because sometimes they aren't happy in their circumstance, but then when they can look at it from a different point of view, they do become happy again. And it's not because the place changed, but it's because they changed, right?
Their mind, their approach, their idea about it changed. Just like I've said before, I've changed my mind about a lot of things, and then I'm okay with them. I could probably do more, but it's my choice. I have to decide that I want to do that.
Yeah, and that, I think that's why we're in this physical realm, so we can learn those lessons, so we can learn the fluidity of it, because I think only in this physical realm where we have to experience consequences for action, and all these things can happen, and cycles happen when we make decisions, and bad decisions would keep leading to the same cycles, and then we could get out of that. I feel like that is really the only way, or maybe there's other ways too, but maybe in this realm, in the physical, it's the only way to really elevate consciousness in a true way on its own, where it could do it on its own without being told what to do or to be forced or any of that stuff. So that's why Sharon and I are always like, just do it till you're done, man. As long as you're not like punch me in the face,
Yeah.
whatever it is, you gotta kind of do it till it's done. Cause I mean, I've known several people who were addicted to drugs like heroin and stuff, and no matter how many times they tried to get clean, one of this kid I grew up with, actually, he hung himself because he just couldn't deal with it, right? And then other people just fall back into patterns, and it's not the drug itself. I feel like there's something greater there, that is some kind of lesson that they have to learn, or something they have to see, some kind of perspective they need to gain, some shift in their consciousness or their worldview. And you see that a lot too, because sometimes people are alcoholics and they'll go to like meetings, and then they become addicted to like donuts and coffee or whatever it is. They'll find like a new hobby, and then that's their addiction. But then some people, when they have like a more of a awakening and a perspective shift, they change totally, and then they don't really have those types of addictions or whatever. They see the root cause behind it, and they're able to heal that and able to go on to the next challenge, which might be something else that's holding them down or whatever. But
Yeah. And
I feel like that's important. That's the resistance, right? That's like why space doesn't make sense, because there's no resistance. So how can you travel in space? But let's not divert the whole. I think I might do a show on that, a Brandon Bonanza show, about like, but there's nothing to push. They got thrusters, but there's nothing for it to push off of, right? Like,
that's
right?
hilarious.
Isn't that how this works? Isn't that what I was taught? Is it me? Am I the crazy one? All right. But yeah, no, that's really what I feel like. It's the resistance that this realm is all about. And and I'm not saying I figured this out, but if you can learn to have that perspective and point of view, and realize that it's just like it could be like a training session or whatever it is, or it's the way to do that, then you could look at your life challenges in a much different way.
Yeah. And it briefly reminds me of some stuff we talked about with Nick, Woodshop the Wise.
Yeah, go
Because
check
we
that
were,
episode out, guys. Last week, episode 77. Shout
yeah,
out to Woodshop.
yeah, we talked about in that episode about when people are in a relationship that they just can't get out of. And it's like you have to meet up with that resistance until you're done, and until you're ready to walk away from that. You just have to.
Yeah. Oh, and then I was looking at the chat. Quiet Sparky Bear says, "One who over moderates finds himself in an empty chat." Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And then he said, "He's so famous, he's infamous." Back to the Three Amigos thing. And David Zimmerly says, "Leela with one eye. Interesting." Yes. Yeah, that show Futurama, there's a lot of hidden gems. Maybe I should start watching that again. I think Elizabeth would enjoy that. So I really haven't been watching a lot of TV, but maybe it might be a good idea. I mean, half an hour a night's not that bad, or maybe 2 episodes or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. It's like the hokey pokey, right?
Yep. Let me go to the next one.
I really love this Aleister Crowley version, by the way, in this verse.
Okay. All right. Well, it says, the way of reticence. Fill not a vessel, lest it spill in caring. Meddle not with a sharpened point by feeling it constantly, or it will soon become blunted. Gold and jade endanger the house of their possessor. Oh, in danger. Yeah. Wealth and honors lead to arrogance and envy and bring ruin. Is thy way famous and thy name becoming distinguished? Wow. He like brings it home, He's like, watch yourself.
Now, is thy way famous?
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's telling you, you're going to become prideful and arrogant and envious and just basically be ruined. So check
Like the
yourself.
tower, right? Back to the tower. That's maybe why another reason why that card came up. It's so synchronistic, because all this moderation stuff really does point to the tower, because when you're not in balance, like we said, everything in moderation, even moderation. So, hey, once in a while, you know what, go out, have a good time, get hammered. I don't know, but have your mind in it, be good, enjoy it. Don't be like, oh, I shouldn't be drinking right now. So, go out and have a good time, but then also take care of your duties and do stuff. And then, sometimes you just want to do nothing. That's fine, whatever it is. But as long as you remember that balance, right? And then, because I think when you get the scale too far to one side, that's when you're in danger of your tower smashing over and falling over. If you build the tower too high, it's not going to be balanced, allegedly.
Yeah. Welcome, Wood Floor Alchemist.
Ooh.
Yeah, so there we go. Sorry, I didn't go back to us chatting, but I'll just finish the last piece here. Withdraw thy work once. Oh, I would remove that comma. Withdraw thy work once done into obscurity. This is the way of heaven. Yeah, and that reminds me of the verse from Stephen Mitchell, which was like, do your works, then step back. It's like, withdraw thy work once done. I need to remove that comma. That's so annoying. Yeah. Any thoughts on that last piece there?
Well, this whole thing, I think, is really, I really love it, because it's very esoteric, kind of, because if you just read this, you might not understand it totally. So maybe the first part, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Fill a vessel. But with the questions, and then withdraw thy work once done into obscurity, this is the way of heaven. That could be really confusing to people.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it would work if it was like, withdraw thy work once done, let it go into obscurity. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it tells you to withdraw, yeah. But either way, it's it's Aleister Crowley. Can't be exactly understandable, but
yeah, good call. Like, maybe the comma is supposed to be there. I don't know.
But it doesn't make sense that it says into obscurity, though. Like, you
Yeah,
have to be like, withdraw once thy work is done, let it go into obscurity, or something like that. Or once thy work is done, withdraw into obscurity, something like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, good. Those are good thoughts.
But yeah, so I really like what they're saying here in this verse. And then you think of verse 9, right? 9 is, in numerology, it's like the final number, really, because 1 through 9 are really the only numbers that there are, right? Everything else is just an amalgamation of another number. 9 is the highest. It's the number of the ego, the number of the self sometimes. So I think it's important that it was put here for number 9, because it's really emphasizing balance and moderation. So it's kind of telling you that it's one of the most important things to do, right? If you go through the first 9 verses and then see this one again, and then go back through them with this in mind, I think it'll kind of help everything come home. And that's really the thing that we like to get across on the show. We could talk about these verses and whatever, but it really is up to everybody to kind of see how it fits in their own life and go back and read them again. I invite people to read this book and then maybe a year later read it again, or the verses, or check them out, or slowly maybe take one at a time, and then maybe make some notes on it, and then go back a year later and see how it hits you. You might pick up something new that you weren't aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. Shall we? All right.
It's just like a 1 with a 0, right?
Yeah. Verse 10, Stephen Mitchell, 1988. Go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, me. Can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep to the original oneness? Can you let your body become supple as a newborn child's? Can you cleanse your inner vision until you see nothing but the light? Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? Can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course? Can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? giving birth and nourishing, having without possessing, acting with no expectations, leading and not trying to control. This is the supreme virtue. I love it.
Yes. Dwight Goddard, what is possible? By patience, the animal spirits can be disciplined. By self-control, one can unify the character. By close attention to the will, compelling gentleness, one can become like a little child. By purifying these subconscious desires, one may be without fault. In ruling his country, if the wise magistrate loves his people, he can avoid compulsion. In measuring out rewards, the wise magistrate will act like a mother bird. While sharply penetrating into every corner, he may appear to be unsuspecting. While quickening and feeding his people, he will be producing, but without pride of ownership. He will benefit, but without claim of reward. He will persuade, but not compel by force. This is day, profoundest virtue. And this was this one was a quite long verse, verse 10.
Yeah. Ooh. So Stan Rosenthal, 1984, cleaning the dark mirror. Maintaining unity is virtuous, for the inner world of thought is one with the external world of action and of things. The sage avoids their separation by breathing as the sleeping babe, and thus maintaining harmony. He cleans the dark mirror of his mind so that it reflects without intent. He conducts himself without contriving, loving the people and not interfering. He cultivates without possessing, thus providing nourishment. He remains receptive to changing needs and creates without desire. By leading from behind, attending to that which must be done, he is said to have attained the mystic state.
Nice. Well, in a previous episode, I had mentioned how there was an Aleister Crowley verse that was actually longer than the Stan Rosenthal. So this is the one.
There it is.
Some said it couldn't be done. I'm just kidding.
Aleister did it.
Things attainable. When soul and body are in the bond of love, they can be kept together. By concentration on the breath, it is brought to perfect elasticity, and one becomes as a babe. By purifying oneself from samadhi, one becomes whole. In his dealing with individuals and with society, let him move without lust of result. In the management of his breath, let him be like the mother bird. Let his intelligence comprehend every quarter, but let his knowledge cease. Here is the mystery of virtue, which in the other translations is day, T-E-H or T-E. It createth all and nourisheth all, yet it doth not adhere to them. It operateth all, but knoweth not of it. Feel like I'm reading the King James
Yeah.
version of the Bible.
Shall.
Okay, let me read that again. It operateth all, but knoweth not of it, nor proclaimeth it. It directeth all, but without conscious control. So there we are with verse 10.
Very interesting.
And
All right, we can take this one, I guess, paragraph by paragraph.
Yeah.
All right, so back to the Stephen Mitchell, 1988. We're going to do the breakdown here. So I love this because it's all questions, right? And
Yeah.
we're all about questions here in the Oversharing Show, right? We're not making claims here. We're just asking questions. So he's like, can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep to the original oneness? Can you let your body become supple as a newborn child's? Can you cleanse your inner vision until you see nothing but the light? Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? That one's a big one because
Wow.
it really has a lot to do with ego, right? So can you love people and can you lead them, but without any intentions of trying to gain anything, right? You're just loving them.
Or to change their mind or to get them to see the way you see.
Yeah, 100%, right? And
Mhm.
the lead part comes in really well too, because when most people think of someone who's a leader, they're doing it because they want to be in control, because they want to be the ones to get the glory or whatever it is. Like king wants to live in a palace or however it is. But I think a proper ruler would lead people and love them without imposing his own will. He's basically going with, he or she is going with the Tao, right? With the Dharma, with the way. Can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course? That's a really big one too, right? Can you just kind of let it happen, right?
Mhm.
Instead of trying to interfere with everything and tweak everything all the time. Um, can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? And I think right here, what they mean by your own mind is kind of like your ego, right? Can you step back from that and just understand how everything works? Can you see how you're attached to all this and you're part of the all, as it will, and you're just a cog in the machine? And it doesn't mean that. And this is where it just gets funny, because the new age or whatever, even communism, right, slips into this, because communism is this awesome utopia where everybody has their place and everybody does it and it's going to work fine. It's going to work perfect. And it seems to me like that was taking the idea of maybe the Tao and setting it in stone, right? Taking something that's left hand path and making it right hand path, right?
All this stuff that you just read just made me think of the I Ching card I pulled, which was entitled Keeping Still, right?
Yeah.
And what it said in the last sentence, which was meditate on just being, or actually the last two sentences, let go of thinking, meditate on just being, just be. So this whole paragraph that Stephen Mitchell just said here, it can just be boiled down. Can you just be?
Yeah. Or be here now, right? Like Ram Dass always
Ram
said.
Dass. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It comes down to like being in the moment, right? Not worrying about the past or the future out of balance. You could be prepared for it, and you could reflect on the past to try to help your situation now, but it doesn't mean you have to be embroiled in them or stuck in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do you want to read the next to Dwight Goddard first top part?
Yeah, I can do that. So Dwight Goddard entitled this, What is Possible? By patience, the animal spirits can be disciplined. Now, I'm just going to read the other one from Stephen Mitchell, just because it's kind of interesting how different they are. Can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep to the original oneness? Patience, huh? Perhaps.
Yeah.
By
And one's
patience, the
telling you how
animals,
to do it,
huh?
right? One's asking you the question and the other one's telling you how to do it, or giving you like
Yeah.
how it's done.
Yeah. By self-control, one can unify the character.
Ooh, I like that. The unification of the character, right? It's not about killing your ego or getting rid of it, right? It's about unifying your character, right?
Yeah.
Be
And
balanced properly.
those two things probably go with that first question, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, and then it says, by close attention to the will, compelling gentleness, one can become like a little child. And Stephen Mitchell says, can you let your body become supple as a newborn child's? Yeah, like Dwight Goddard is telling you how you can do that. Paying attention to your will, compelling gentleness, like basically like the compassion that, especially because little children are like that. They're very compassionate.
Yeah.
Wow.
I also like when they in the Tao, when they talk about compelling, they're not talking about compelling others, right? They're talking about compelling yourself
Within yourself.
within yourself. Yes, to be the tyrant of yourself or whatever, not a tyrant, but like a king of both sides, your masculine and feminine side, the right and left hemispheres of your brain, that proper balance.
Welcome, Little Smurfs Eat Ivy, who says, I'm loving this with a heart. Well, we're glad
Oh,
you are. Thank you.
how'd you hear about us, little Smurf seed Ivy?
Yeah, do tell. Little
Well,
Smurfs Eat Ivy. Little Smurfs eat ivy. Just kidding.
I used to watch the Smurfs all the time when I was younger.
I didn't, but I didn't watch that much TV.
Gargamel and Azrael. Azrael
Oh,
was the name of the cat, and it's also like a name of a fallen angel. And they
oh
put it.
yeah. Asriel, yeah. All
Snap.
right. So the next few lines, by purifying the subconscious desires, one may be without fault. And then Stephen says, can you cleanse your inner vision until you see nothing but light? Wow. Like totally different ways of interpreting that one line. That's crazy. Purifying your subconscious desires is cleansing your inner vision till you see nothing but light. Wow. In ruling his country, if the wise magistrate loves his people, he can avoid compulsion. And then Stephen Mitchell says, can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? Yeah. Yep.
And I love that because we just talked about compelling, and compulsion is kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, can you avoid trying to use compulsion?
Impose your will, like
Impose your
Stephen
will.
Mitchell says.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and saying, I know better than you. You got to do it this way because this is how
Yeah.
I want my country run, you know?
Yeah.
Sounds like a government that I know. I won't name the government.
In measuring out rewards, the wise magistrate will act like a mother bird. And where do let's see, can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course? That's Stephen Mitchell. That's a little different.
Yeah.
And then
Go ahead. Go ahead.
while sharply penetrating into every corner, he may appear to be unsuspecting. And then Stephen Mitchell says, can you step back from your own mind? That was a typo. And thus understand all things. Yeah, those are a little different.
Yeah.
But any comments?
I do like the way that they use the mother bird as an analogy.
Yeah, because mothers can't be, like, oh, I love this bird, this baby bird better than that baby bird. Right?
Yeah, exactly. While sharply penetrating into every corner, he may appear to be unsuspecting. Yeah. So it's kind of like he's aware, but he looks like he's not aware.
That sharply penetrating into every corner makes, well, what did it make me think of? I lost my train of thought. I guess just looking into every corner, just to make sure that you got everything, basically, you know what I mean? Like just looking under every rock or whatever, however you say that.
Yeah. And it's funny because the way they appear, though, it just appears like they're not doing it. They appear to be unsuspecting, but they are sharply penetrating into every corner. You know, they have this,
Yeah.
they have it figured out, right? They know what they're doing. They just might not look like it.
They're like the mother bird looking from above, down below, making sure everything, like big picture,
Yeah.
making sure everything's okay.
But it's in a way where they're not doing it for like praise, or they're not doing it ostentatiously to
Yeah.
be,
it comes naturally to them to do that. Nice. All right. You ready for Stan Rosenthal?
Yeah. Bring it on.
All right.
Cleaning the dark mirror. Maintaining unity is virtuous, for the inner world of thought is one with the external world of action of things. I like that because it's really telling you again about balance, right? We're back to balance because the Tao really is all about balance, but it's telling you that the inner world, your inside and external, should be lined up, right? That's how you maintain virtue. You're not like doing one thing but wishing you were doing another inside, like it's kind of like people that, I mean, a lot of people have to work at a job that they don't exactly like, and inside they want to be doing something else, but externally they're working, 9 to 5 for the man, for somebody else or whatever. And there's like an imbalance there because of it. And again, I'm not like shaming people. Everyone's got to make money and make a living and all this stuff, but that's just an example. And I could kind of use that in my life because before I started DJing and supporting myself in other ways that I was being more creative, like when I was in sales or whatever, I used to hate it, but I just wanted the money because I wanted to have things, so I needed money and I needed to pay rent and all these things and eat. But then I found another way to do it, and it was hard work. And I had to really, even going through my healing process or my consciousness evolving or my consciousness rising experiences that I've had instead of healing, we'll say that I've even gotten better at my craft as a DJ or even like as a podcaster or a comedian or any of this stuff because I became more true to myself. And my inner world started to match my outer world because you can come back to us if you want.
Oh yeah, sorry for
no, it's cool because I'm going to make this point because there's this whole nice guy syndrome thing that happens to people, or it happens to guys a lot, where they act nice all the time and they act really nice to people, but then all this animosity builds up and they get to a certain point and then they just explode, right? And I used to kind of be like that. And what it is because we're all raised to be good people. Well, a lot of us are raised to be good people and to be nice and to be respectful. And when we're children, a lot of men especially will hide their own needs because they want attention or whatever it is that they want. They want that external validation. So they hide a lot of their needs. So then they kind of learn to do that. And when they get to be adults, nobody ever teaches them that. So they do the same thing. So they might meet a woman, they might be dating for a while, and they just kind of let all these things that bother them, they'll just let them go. They let them go. They let them go. And then it gets to a point where they just explode. And, the way around that really is to like learn how to establish boundaries and open communication and all this stuff. But
absolutely,
we don't think about it in that way. So while you're doing that though, so if you're one of these nice guys like I was, you might be trying to be nice and smooth over situations externally, but in the inside, you're like, this sucks. I fucking hate this. I fucking want to break up with this woman or whatever it is, right? So you have this, it's out of whack. So I think here what they're saying, and so eloquently in a few words, which is a surprise for Stan Rosenthal, he's letting you know that you got to line up your inner and outer worlds, right? Or it just works better that way. Again, you don't have to do it if you don't want to, but you want it to work a little smoothly, line them up. And it doesn't always happen right away. And the examples I can use is like when I stopped lying, or when I made a conscious effort to stop lying. Not that I was like lying all the time or whatever, but I didn't really see a problem with it. And still, like I said before, I think sometimes you say like a little white lie or whatever. I don't think it's like damnation. Like again, moderation, right? Especially moderation. But I go about most times try to either to omit the truth, or just not lie, or basically not omit the truth. I guess that's a rough way to say it, but you don't always have to tell people how you feel about them. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you could just let some things go. But as soon as I started to do that and to tell myself, like, I'm not going to lie over these stupid little things or whatever, my outer world started to match my inner, and it just went so much more smoothly. So it's the same kind of thing. And again, these aren't judgments, because a lot of people in the exterior world, they find themselves in situations where they have to do what they have to do until they can kind of figure it out, right? And again, it's like you are where you can only start where you find yourself. So
yeah, I've experienced that where like I bring something up, or I brought something up before to a boyfriend or something, and they're like, well, yeah, I can't think of an example specifically, but they're like, yeah, well, you do that and I never say anything to you. And I'm like, you should say something to me, because then how do I know? How would I know if you don't speak up? Like, if you don't like it, tell me. I will not do that anymore or something. You know what I mean? We can talk about it.
Sure. Thank you. So that's awesome. Yeah, it's so true. A lot, and that's called a covert contract. And I was living in covert contract land because I wasn't establishing boundaries and I wasn't communicating effectively. And now that I have been establishing boundaries and communicating more effectively, which you've helped me with a lot, I can say, because you're always like, what do you mean? What do you mean? You're like,
I know. I'm like,
you're like, you got to explain. And now I do it in my life.
context, please.
I always have like a little Sharon on my shoulder. I'm like, would Sharon understand that? I'm like, let me explain further. Hang on. Little Sharon's confused. Let me know. But yeah, that's the way. No, that is a good way for people though to affect people in a positive way though. You know what I mean? Like but yeah, the covert contract thing is huge. That happens a lot. Men and women will do it. They feel like they will tailor to be, and then if they see something that's like a fault of their character, of their partner, then they feel like they can have some kind of fault too, right? You know, that if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah. David Zimmerly says, you do look fat in that dress. Shave that mustache. That's pretty bad. I don't, like, as a woman, I don't say, do I look XYZ in this XYZ? I just say, like, do I look okay? Or, you know what I mean? And, you know, I'm open to some feedback, but, you know, of course I don't want to be bashed either. So I think a little bit of like care is in order as well. Like, you know, like, well, it is a bit tight on you. Do you have something else that fits you a little bit more, you know, less snug or whatever? Like, you know, something that's not going to be something that's less, how shall I say, a more neutral way of saying things. But yeah, I don't know.
Something when I was younger, because you know I'm a INTP, and INTPs are mostly interested in like facts and truth and all that stuff. So when I was younger, if somebody was like, do I look fat in this? I just thought they were like, they wanted the truth. Like they're just, oh, I want some information. I'm like, oh, here, I'll give it to you. I'm like, yeah, you look fucking huge. No, I didn't say that, but I had to learn all that stuff the hard way. It was pretty hilarious. But yeah, I think that one of those ways to do it is just kind of not answer certain questions, or like you said, just use less harsh things. But that reminded me though, because a lot of times I'll say to Elizabeth, or sometimes even when I'm with somebody that I'm working with and we're about to like go in front of people, I'm like, do I look homeless? I'm like, I gotta know, because like sometimes my stuff gets like, you know, frazzled, and my hair's crazy, and I might look like
and your eyebrows are sticking out like out here. I'm just kidding.
yeah, exactly, like Gandalf eyebrows. Do I got Gandalf eyebrows going on? You know, so that's one thing I will ask instead of, do I look fat or whatever. I'm like, do I look homeless?
Yeah. Good call. So anyway, where were we? Let me go back to let's go back to the Tao. Where did you get to?
Let's go back.
You just got to action, end of things, right? That's all you did.
Yeah, we were just talking about maintaining the unity. Awesome.
Oh.
So the sage avoids their separation by breathing as the sleeping babe and thus maintaining harmony. He cleans the dark mirror of his mind so that it reflects without intent. He conducts himself without contriving, loving the people and not interfering. That last part really is like, it's kind of like it was lined up in the previous two verses and how we explained it. But the part before that, he cleans the dark mirror of his mind so that it reflects without intent. That's huge, because we just did that episode a couple weeks ago on the 7 is seen mirrors, and how everybody's a reflection of you, of either you or your judgments, or how you view your connection to the creator, all that stuff. And this is what they're really getting at. Cleans the dark mirror of his mind so that it reflects without intent, right? So you're not looking at things with an intent. I'm not looking at my neighbor's yard going, ooh, I bet I could, you know, take that over and plant some stuff over there and get some goats, you know, and
or why hasn't he cut his grass?
oh yeah, exactly. You know, it's all that kind of stuff. You're just looking at it objectively and honestly without the reflection of your intent, or you can even say like your ego or whatever, but you clean the dark mirror of your mind. I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. And then the reflect, so it reflects without intent. That makes me think of mirrors, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Well, the dark mirror. There you go.
And I've heard that before, like polishing the mirror is a way that people have said it before to you, because
using Windex. Just
Well,
kidding.
yeah. Ugh. Ooh, how
I'm
dare-
kidding.
but yeah, it's about, because everybody experiences this reality through their filters, and the filters that were placed upon them or that they accepted while they were growing up from other people or the way they saw the world. So then they have this point of view or this framework or a dirty mirror. And it's up to you to clean that mirror so you could see exactly what's going on in that reflection, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or not. Again, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not telling you how to live. We're just telling you how to live easier. The oversharing show. We're not telling you how to live. We're just telling you how it could be a little easier.
Good call. Good call. Is that the new tagline?
I think so. Yeah. And remember, we're not telling, we can say that after, once you start sharing, you totally stop being a Karen.
And remember,
we're not trying to tell you how to live. And then you could say the other part if you want.
okay. We'll see what we remember today.
All right, we'll see.
Okay, let's see. Conducts himself without contriving, loving the people, not interfering. Yeah. We talked about the whole, I think we talked about the whole not interfering.
The last two versions, yeah.
All right. So Aleister Crowley calls this verse things attainable. Oh, look, even Stan Rosenthal calls it cleaning the dark mirror.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that's why I was really drawn to
Let's
that
see.
when I first read it, because I've heard of this concept of cleaning a mirror. It didn't say a dark mirror, but it's just like cleaning the mirror.
Yeah, it's funny because they're also different this time around. What is Possible by Dwight Goddard, Cleaning the Dark Mirror by Stan Rosenthal, and Things Attainable by Aleister Crowley.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. All right. So Aleister says, when soul and body are in the bond of love, they can be kept together. This reminds me of what you were talking about earlier, the unity, right?
Yeah.
By concentration on the breath, it is brought to perfect elasticity, and one becomes as a babe. That goes back to, let's see, the sage avoids their separation by breathing as a sleeping babe.
In Seattle. I like this because the by concentration on the breath, it's brought to perfect elasticity. So it kind of brings back meditation, right? Because that's what a lot of people do when they meditate. They concentrate on their breath, because breathing or blinking or any of these things that we do without even thinking about it, it's a process of the body that you actually could put your concentration on instead of worrying about tomorrow or worrying about what you said yesterday to that lady, or what you did or whatever it was. You can just concentrate on your breath, and there's nothing telling you that you can't.
Absolutely. And just like they always say, you can always return to this moment by focusing on your breath.
That's right. Great.
Go ahead.
I was going to say great wisdom.
Yes. By purifying oneself from samadhi, one becomes whole. Samadhi is, can you remind me what that is, Brandon?
I've heard of samadhi as being a state of like spiritual oneness and bliss. Like people try to attain samadhi. So I don't know if he means by purifying oneself through samadhi, kind of, or by samadhi, but maybe he just has a different definition of samadhi. I mean, I could always look it up while you're reading if you want.
Okay.
See what they say. Samadhi.
Yeah. So it says in his dealing with individuals and with society, let him move without lust of result. In the management of his breath, there we go with the breath again, let him be like the mother bird. We saw the mother bird. Where did we see that? There it is.
Yeah. No, in the
so funny how Dwight and Aleister both use that mother bird thing. Wow. Like it's like you said, maybe Aleister was looking at Dwight's stuff.
Yeah, that's quite possible. Or maybe it was just in the ether at the time.
That's what I'm thinking. It was in the ether. In the management of his breath, let me be like the mother bird. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I did look up the definition of samadhi, and I was correct according to this. It's a state of intense concentration achieved through meditation. In Hindu yoga, it's regarded as the final stage at which union with the divine is reached. So maybe he's using the word from. He means by like from doing, like by purifying oneself from attaining samadhi or something like that.
Yeah, perhaps he's doing the whole like, don't do the spiritual ego thing. Don't think you're, just because you may have come to the point of you think you're at samadhi.
Oh yeah. I didn't
You
even
know what
think
I
about
mean?
it. Well,
Like
yeah,
by purifying yourself from this thought process of like, ooh, I'm at samadhi, you
yeah,
know, you become whole. Like let go of your spiritual ego too.
yeah. I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, in the management of his breath, let him be like the mother bird. Let his intelligence comprehend every quarter. I don't know what he means by that, but let
Well,
his knowledge cease.
just like in the Dwight Goddard version, he says peering into every corner. This one he's saying, um,
Quarter, like of the room.
yes. And this one's
Wow.
corner, and there's four corners, right? And then four
Yeah.
quarters, because a quarter is a fourth.
Yeah.
Let his
Yeah.
intelligence comprehend every quarter, every corner, but let his
Oh,
so
good
let him
call.
understand. And I like how he uses comprehend, right? So let him comprehend this,
Mm-hmm.
but his own knowledge, the ego, right, or whatever it is, think
Mm-hmm.
you let that cease. And that's true wisdom, right? When you
Good
know
call.
nothing.
Good call. Fantastic. Absolutely. So we are back at the second part of verse 10.
On Stephen Mitchell, giving
Mhm.
birth and nourishing, having without possessing, acting with no expectations, leading and not trying to control. This is the supreme virtue.
Mm, I
And
would.
the having without possessing thing. So giving birth and nourishing, I'm sure everybody understands what that's all about, right? So you give birth to something and nourish it, but having without possessing, that could trip somebody up. It's kind of like, wait, how can I have it but and not possess it? And that's just about attachment, right? It's just not
Mm,
attached to it. You
mm,
have these really cool sunglasses, but if you go swimming somewhere and then you leave them, you don't get all upset about it and mad. You just
mm-hmm.
say, all right, well, I guess I just had these things for 5 or 6 years and it's time for me to get new sunglasses, which I did, and they're on the way and I'm really excited.
Oh,
So
that's funny.
but that's how it's funny, because I went swimming with Elizabeth, this place in the woods, and we got back and it was like kind of a
Don't
long
tell me
hike.
you lost them.
I realized I didn't have them, and I went back about halfway, but I wasn't gonna. We didn't have time to go back the whole way. Probably really
The
plus some.
green Oakleys?
Yeah,
That's
and
funny. Because when we were out there, didn't we go into the Bass Pro Shops and we were looking at all the sunglasses
yeah,
and we were looking at the Oakleys and I said I used to have Oakleys when back years ago in high school, college, whatever, but I would always lose them. So I decided, to buy the cheap ones after that.
yeah. It's funny you said that, because that happened to me too. Like, I used to buy expensive sunglasses and then I would lose them, and then I got mad, so I stopped. I started buying cheap ones. But then I got a pair of Oakley's, just the frog skins at a really good deal, and I had a couple pairs. That was the last pair that I bought. I still have the other ones, but I admired the quality of them. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I was like, oh yeah. But I am also not as attached. So it didn't even bother
Yeah.
me. Like, everybody else was way more bothered about it. Like
Yeah.
Elizabeth and her parents are like, are you sure you don't want to go back? And I was just like, you know what? Those things had a good run, like
Yeah. Yeah.
I might still find them, because sometimes you go hiking somewhere and people stick things at the beginning. So
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
yeah, but that's really what it's about. It's not having the attachment. It's about saying, so at that moment where you lose your sunglasses, you could say to yourself, was I meant to lose these?
Yes.
Is there a
Yes.
reason? Like maybe they weren't doing me justice. So I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever.
Maybe sources telling me I need to buy new ones for some other reason.
Maybe somebody else needed sunglasses more.
Or, yeah, or maybe sources telling you you don't need them at all.
Yeah, that could be it too, because I have been wearing them less. It's just sometimes when I'm driving, it
Yeah,
gets.
yeah.
But no, I
When
hear you.
it's
Like when I'm in the woods, and that's why I lost him, because I probably shouldn't even have brought him in the woods, but I had him hooked to my to my kilt, and I guess they just fell
mm,
off and I didn't realize. But yeah, I like to try to get more sun, because I know it is the UV blocking. They say it's so good for you, but your eyes probably need UV. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah. I stopped wearing sunglasses some years ago too because of that. I was like, you know what? I'm not in the sun all the time. So when I am, might as well just get the sun in my eyes.
Yeah, for shizzle.
My
Uh,
nizzle.
Giving birth and nourishing. Okay, so
Where
acting with no expectations, leading and not trying to control. This is, oh, I did read all that. Okay, yeah. So um it does remind me of stuff that we hear in a lot of the other verses, leading and not
Mhm.
trying to control, acting with no expectations. It's kind of like a repetitive. They're just repeating that all this stuff is really important if you
Yep,
want to live according to the Tao.
absolutely. Dwight Goddard. While quickening and feeding his people, he will be producing, but without pride of ownership. He will benefit, but without claim of reward. He will persuade, but not compel by force. This is day, which is translated as virtue. Oh, there it is. The profoundest virtue. So yeah, let's see. It says he will be producing. Are we talking about the wise? Yeah, the wise man or the wise magistrate will be producing, but without pride of ownership. Like you said, these are kind of just repeating things that were said in previous verses and probably above as well. So
100%. We did have in the Little Smurfs Eat Ivy said, I wonder why he says that about Samadhi. Ram Dass talked about that a lot. And he or she, I should say she. He,
yes, I think it's a she.
um, he's talking about Ram Dass, and I think what he's saying we can even when we get back to that page, I'll cover it again. So we'll just remember to make a note.
Oh, oops.
Um,
Oh, sorry. The next one, right?
yeah, we could go on because that version is the Dwight Goddard version. It's kind of saying the same thing as the other ones. But if we go back to this Aleister Crowley, by purifying oneself from samadhi, I think it means by doing so, like by purifying oneself by attaining samadhi or from the work to get to samadhi, like I think it's the I don't think he means it in a way by cleansing yourself of samadhi. I think it means cleansing yourself by attaining samadhi or something like that. I think that's kind of what they're talking about in my estimation. Because
Yeah.
it's like I got AIDS from this hooker. You know what I mean? Like it's like by purifying oneself from samadhi. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like
I mean,
that was a funny. I'm a comedian, everybody. This is an example I use. Like I from that food, right? It's kind of the same thing. I purified myself by using anyway, that's kind
by
of what
using somebody. Okay. Yeah.
we got to remember. This was like 100 years ago, so they spoke a little differently back then.
Yeah. That too. So, do you want to do the Stan Rosenthal?
Yeah. He cultivates without possessing, thus providing nourishment. He remains receptive to changing needs and creates without desire. By leading from behind, attending to that which must be done, he is said to have attained the mystic state. The first couple
Mm.
lines are pretty much what we've been talking about, but the leading from behind concept is really cool because it could be seen as cowardice, like if you don't want to get in front of your army and charge it into battle. But this is more about leading people, but not like taking them by the reins like you would lead a horse, right? Like leading a horse to
Mhm.
water. This is more you're in the back leading by example.
Monitoring. Yeah.
Yes, monitoring, leading by example, maybe something like that. Yeah. And by doing all these things, you're said to have attained the mystic state. And there
Yeah.
you go. Mystic state. Where does mystic come from? Mystery, right? So it's all
Mm.
about being okay with that mystery of the future or the past, or even the mystery of what the hell we're in right now. Is this a planet? Is it a round ball? Is it a flat plane? Is it a simulation or a spiritual realm? We don't really know. We know it's a mystery. Well, we might be able to say what it's not, but again, it's a mystery. Why are we here? What's the purpose of life? It's a mystery, right? And if you attain that mystic state, that means that you're okay with that mystery.
Yeah, this like leading from behind also makes me think of you're also just you're like being part of that crowd, part of that group. You're not like pedestalizing yourself
Yeah.
and being like, I'm the leader, follow me. You're just like, I'm walking with you guys. Like what Ram Dass says, like, I'm just a friend walking you home or something like that. What does he
Yeah.
say?
We're all just walking each other home.
Yeah. And so yeah, that's what I think of. And then that word mystic or mystery, it's like, um, I guess I see when you're in a crowd like that, you could just be kind of a mystery because if you're not like making yourself completely unique and pedestalizing yourself or whatever, then you can just hang back and like no one would know you as different from the crowd. And that's kind of mysterious, right?
Yeah. There's another line that it reminds me, and it's kind of from the Tao, and we're going to get to it. I don't remember what verse it is, but we'll get there eventually. And it's kind of like when when the leader or whatever does the right thing, it'll be like the people won't even know. I think it's something like, yes, we've done it all by ourselves. Like that's what they
Yeah.
say, right? We've done this all by ourselves.
Yeah. Because like the leader isn't trying to get credit for it either.
And you won't be depending on that. Their crowd isn't depending on the leader, right? They're just
Mhm.
doing their own.
Following their
Yeah,
intuition. Yeah.
lovely.
Aleister Crowley's version says, here is the mystery of virtue. It createth all and nourisheth all. This is the funny King James version. Yet it doth not adhere to them. Okay, I'm gonna try to. Okay, let me remove the createth stuff. Here is the mystery of virtue. It creates all and nourishes all, yet it doesn't adhere to them. It operates all, but knows not of it, nor does it proclaim it. It directs all, but without conscious control. Yeah. Operateth all, but knoweth not of it. Nor, yeah. So I think it's saying basically what the other verses are saying, unless you see something else.
Yeah, they talk. He starts with a mystery right at the top here, where it seems like everybody else kind of.
Oh, yeah. The mystic. Good point. Mystic down here, mystery there. And then, well, they say virtue and they
Yeah,
say virtue. Yeah. And it's funny because these two say virtue. Like, what are the freaking odds of me putting them this way? Those two say the same thing. And these two pretty much say the same thing. It's crazy. But
yeah.
yeah. So,
And the whole thing about directing it without conscious control, it's the same kind of thing. And as leading from behind, and
mhm.
MS in the chat says, I have something to overshare. When people say to get over it versus let it go are two very different directions you're giving your body. And when you get over it, where is it? Is it still in your vicinity? Perhaps it's just underneath you if you got over it, but is it really gone, or has it really been dealt with? I think I
To
think
get over it.
to yeah, I think to get over it, it is slightly to outrun it vertically and temporarily. It's always there beneath the horizon, if you will. When you get over it, you are so over getting it. Get it? Now letting go, you might do it while facing it and then backing away. Oh, I like that. I like those different concepts, because letting it go is right, because getting over it is one thing, but then just letting it go totally just means you don't even have to get over it, because it doesn't you reach
It like dissipates when you let something go. It's almost like it dissipates into nothingness.
yeah, 100%. You retain this worldview or this perception where it doesn't even bother you anymore.
And
It's
also,
big
those two ways of saying things have also different connotations or different what's the word I'm looking for? They have different feel to them. Like Get over it sounds very rude and just like mean,
Different
like,
intentions.
yeah, get over it. Like, stop being a baby, just get over it. While let it go is a little bit more gentle. Like, let it go. Just breathe, relax, let it go. It's not as invasive or pushy.
And get over it could also be looked at as you're trying to be better than it, right? You're trying to be higher than it, which isn't always a bad thing, but if you look at it in a egoic way, people could be like, oh, I'm better than this or whatever. And I
Yeah.
guess that's not a bad thing all the time, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, we're almost at the 2 hour mark.
Yeah.
So, and we covered what we needed to. Is there anything else you wanted to say about these verses or anything else we want to talk about before we, we'll give a shout out to the chat and all that stuff, but I didn't know if there's anything
Yeah,
else.
go ahead. Shout out the chat. I think I'm
Oh,
done.
what's up, Gordy? Speaking of shouting out the chat, good to see you in here. As every time we see you, it's a great thing. I did want to say I saw that owl video where the owl looks like it's taking flight and then disappearing. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's
I
this
think
little
it
short
was,
video clip going around where there's like a white owl and there's some fancy music in the background. And it's like, keep your eyes on the owl. And then the owl takes off. It's, just on this thing that's not even high and it flies. And then all of a sudden it looks like it disappears. But I was looking at that and yeah, that could have happened. Maybe the owl disappeared, but it also could have been night vision. And the reason the owl was appearing so bright was because it was in the light. And once it flies into a shadow, it doesn't have that light reflecting it. Or maybe it's not exactly night vision, but it looked like it was
yeah.
like Sony night vision, right? So maybe
Yeah.
it was and because it was moving so fast, maybe that's why it had seemed to disappear. But I'm up for owls disappearing too. Who knows, right? But I like to be
Yeah.
skeptical. But yeah, no, I love owls, so I'm not gonna. I found an owl feather the other day. As a matter of fact, I was in a downtown area of a town where there were still a lot of trees and stuff, but I found a baby owl feather. It was really amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, Blue Kachina. Thank you. Another good one. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Traversing the material to the spiritual. Yeah. There you go. Awesome.
Yes,
Shout out to
indeed.
everybody's in the chat today. Also, David Zimmerly, who's in here hanging out a lot. Little Smurfs eat Ivy. Hopefully, we'll see you again.
MS, thank you for showing up.
Spoons, of course. We love Spoons. She's like the unseen part of the show. Her and Joe
Yes.
here too. Thank you, Joe, for hanging out. I'm sure you're going to watch the rest of this because he had to take off. But when you see the rest of this, know that we are very grateful for having you. And Wood Floor Alchemist, thank you. Quiet Sparky Bear, we love you. Cody, of course, we love Cody. Sharon loves him a little more than I do, but that's fine because that's her fan. So, Zaralath, we love seeing him in here all the time. Yeah, I think we covered everybody that was in here. We didn't say your name. We're sorry, but shout out. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. And that's the best way to support us is by hanging out here and telling us how awesome we are. No, but we love the input in the what was
Feedback.
The feedback. Yeah, that's the word I was going to say. In the all that stuff because it gives us some content and helps us to enunciate what we're talking about better. And if you want to support the show even further, you can go to morelawsmoreproblems.com, click on the Over Sharon tab, and there's several ways to support us, either monetarily or just by sharing our show, hitting thumbs up, commenting, liking, all that fun stuff. So until next week, what do we say to the good people, Sharon?
That once you start oversharing,
Then you totally stop being a Karen.
and you're supposed to say, and remember. Do you remember what you were going to say?
I remembered. I was gonna. I just wanted to give a brief pause, but we both remembered, so that's great. And trust me, I'm not like mad that you stepped in because I would forget. So, yeah, and remember, we're not trying to tell you how to live.
We're simply trying to tell you how to live more easily.
There you go.
Did I do it right?
Close enough. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And we're done. Total